So the first problem asks you what the future value would be if the interest rate was 5% and the money you have right now is $10,000, and how much would that be in 1 year? And to process it, you just have to input all the given variables according to in the order of what's just shown in the third row, the white keys. So the first variable is the number of years, and the year is 1. So 1, so you start with the number and then you just enter it in the white key. So 1 n, and 1 will be entered into, will be stored into n. And then the next variable is the interest rate. The interest rate is 5%. And note that your financial calculator will accept all the numbers as percentages. So it's not going to be 0.05, but 5, okay? Everything just automatically, by default, is accepted as a percentage term. So 5, interest rate. And then the money that you have right now is $10,000. And then you're going to input that as present value. But as I told you, your financial calculator will differentiate a cash inflow and cash outflow. In this case, you are making a deposit, so you'll have to make it into a negative. So negative 10,000 will have to be stored as your present value. Right now, the first key, payment, it's skipped, so you don't have to worry about that. Once you input all the numbers, now you're ready to compute the future value. Then you will start with the top left-hand corner key, which says CPT, which stands for compute. Okay, so you're ready to compute and compute future value. And it will return the future value, which we already know the answer for, which is $10,500. Now we're moving on to the second problem, and then whenever you are trying to work on a new problem, it is highly recommended you just clear all the previous works. And how do you do that? If you just take a look at the letters right above FE, then it says clear time value. So it is highly recommended you just clear all the work from previous problems by pushing second, clear time value of money. Then all the numbers that are stored in all the variables, they will be just cleared. So you can start from scratch. Okay, so the second problem is the same thing, except that, you know, the number of years is 2 now. Okay, so 2. So let's start from the very beginning. Okay, 2 should be your number of years. And interest rate still 5%. And the money that you start off and you deposit or save is $10,000. Negative, right? It's being deposited, cash outflow, present value. You skip payment and move on to future value. Future value should be your should be the one that you need to compute. So compute future value, and it will return $11,025, which is what you already know from the PowerPoint slides. Now, the third problem, which uses a different compounding period. So it was the same as before, except that your investment is compounded semi-annually. So you'll have to make an adjustment in terms of the interest rate and also the number of periods. So now the number of periods would be 4 6 months. So it's not going to be 2, but 4. So 4 should be input as the number of years. And next, the interest rate is, it's no longer 5, but 5 divided by 2. So that's 2.5. So 2.5 should be input as interest rate. Present value, on the other hand, should be the same because, you know, you're making the same deposit, same investment. 10,000 negative present value. You skip payment, and now it's time to compute future value. Compute future value, and the answer is exactly the same as the answer from the PowerPoint slide, which is $11,038. Now, why don't we move on to the present value problems? So let's say you want to have $10,000 in 1 year, and the interest rates are 5%. How much do you need to save today? Okay, so you need to have $10,000 in 1 year. And how much do you need to set aside or save today? So the number of years would be 1, interest rate 5%. And present value, this is the one that you need to compute. So why don't you skip? You only need to just input the numbers that are given right now. So you skip it. And payment, no need. So you just skip it. And then finally, future value. So future value, you know. So you know that you will need $10,000 back into your pocket in 1 year so that you can just use that for some other uses. All right, so 10,000 will have to be given back to you so that you can use it for some other purposes. All right, so 10,000 is plus. That's going to be cash inflow. And so input that as positive for your future value. And now you're ready to compute the present value. So compute present value. And it says that the answer is negative 9,523.8. So what that means is right now you will have to save or deposit or invest 9,523.8 to have $10,000 back in 1 year. And what if we just extended the time period to 2 years? Then the only thing that need to be changed is the number of years, right? It's going to be 2 in 5 interest rate. Present value right now you skip because you're going to compute this. Payment, disregard. And finally, future value, you will need $10,000 back into your pocket in 2 years. So plus, right? That will be input as future value. And then you're ready to compute the present value. So compute present value. And it says you will have to save 970.29 right now to have $10,000 in 2 years. Now it's time to compute the interest rate. So according to the problem, the future value that you need in 12 years was $50,000. And number of periods was 12 years, and right now you only have $5,000. And it was the problem was asking what the interest rate should be. So you will just input the number as it is, but be cautious about the signs for the present value and future value. Then it will be other than that, it's just very straightforward. So the number of years you have would be 12. Interest rate right now is the variable in question, so you're going to skip this. And then the next variable is present value. So present value is the amount that you have right now, which is 5,000. But what are you going to do with the 5,000? You're going to save it or you're going to invest it, meaning that it will have to be taken out of your pocket. So negative 5,000. Should be input into the present value. Payment, disregard for now. And then you move on to future value. Future value, we have future value, which is 50,000. You want it back, okay? It will have to be coming back to your pocket. So 50,000, all right, plus should be input as your future value. So you're gonna deposit 5,000 and wanna have 50,000 back in 12 years. If that was your goal, which interest rate would achieve that? Compute interest rate. And then it says it should be 21.15%. Now, the last problem says you have to deposit $5,000 today, and the interest rate was 10%. And you want it to grow to $10,000. How long do you need to have it sit there, right? So depositing $5,000. So number of years is missing and you want to just compute that. Interest rate is 10%. So input 10 as the interest rate. present value, it says that you will deposit $5,000 today. It's being deposited. It's just getting out of your pocket, so negative. And then that should be your present value. Payment disregard, just move on to future value. And in the future, you want 10,000 back. It will have to come back to your pocket, future value. So all the variables have been entered, and right now it's time to compute the number of years. So compute number of years. And it says 7.27 years, which is consistent with the PowerPoint slide answer.